I'm Sienna James, 33, and I've always believed I had my life pretty well under control. I live in a cozy duplex on the north side of Chicago, where Lake Michigan wines carry winter straight through your bones, and where quiet neighborhoods hide messy truths behind well-kept porches. I work as a brand strategist at a fast-growing outdoor apparel company, while my husband, Liam, 35, teaches middle school science. We've been married for 7 years. No kids yet, but a rescue dog named Jasper who thinks he's one of us. To anyone looking in, we're the typical couple board game nights, grocery store dates, matching snow boots in the foyer. Not passionate maybe, but predictable and safe. That's what I told myself as I got dressed for the company's New Year's Eve party downtown. I wasn't planning to stay late, just show up, grab a flute of champagne, take a few pictures with my team, and be home by midnight to toast the new year with Liam like always. But then Julian Hart walked in. Julian is the newly appointed VP of Strategy 42, recently divorced, with the kind of tailored confidence that fills a room before he speaks. I'd met him briefly in meetings, but that night, under soft rooftop lighting and a sky full of fireworks, he didn't feel like a boss. He felt like someone who got it, who got me. We ended up talking for hours about the pressure of ambition, the loneliness of feeling like you're performing at home, the fear of mediocrity. It was the kind of conversation I hadn't had with Liam in years. We weren't flirting, not really just talking, until the drinks blurred the edges and laughter got a little too easy. And just like that, I forgot what time it was. It was past 2 a.m. by the time I stepped back into our darkened home. Jasper didn't bark. Liam was waiting. He was on the couch, still dressed, eyes red from either exhaustion or holding back tears. "You're drunk," he said. I didn't deny it. "It's New Year's Eve. What's the big deal?" He didn't respond not to that, just pointed at my coat. There on the collar was a faint smear of lipstick. Not mine. My stomach dropped. I tried to explain. It wasn't what it looked like. Julian hugged me goodbye, nothing more. But Liam's face had already hardened into something I didn't recognize. It wasn't jealousy, it was heartbreak. He didn't scream, he didn't accuse. He just stood up, walked past me, and went into the guest room, closing the door without another word. That silence. It echoed louder than any fight we'd ever had. The days that followed were quieter than I'd ever imagined a house could be. Liam didn't leave, but he wasn't present either. We ate in the same room, said good morning and good night, but something inside him had shut off. I tried to pretend it was just a phase. Maybe we were both tired. Maybe he'd come around, but he didn't. And I couldn't help but notice how Julian's name lingered on everyone's lips at work. One of the interns, Maya Young Sharp, and unfortunately observant, started giving me looks. Whispers began. Someone must have seen us leave the party together. Worse still, Julian left a voicemail on my phone. "Happy New Year, Sienna. I hope tonight reminded you how important you are." Liam found it. He didn't yell, he just walked past me that night, eyes full of something that felt final, and said, "You never really saw me, did you?" And for the first time, I couldn't argue with him. Sienna didn't plan to stay long at the New Year's Eve party. Just a quick drink, some polite networking, and then home before midnight to watch the ball drop with Liam. That had been their tradition for the past 5 years, wine a blanket and a quiet toast on the couch. But this year, things felt off even before she left. Liam had been distant lately. Maybe it was the long hours she poured into the Dwyer account, or the late nights that left them talking less and misunderstanding more. He kissed her goodbye, but it was half-hearted, his eyes already drifting back to the lesson plan he was editing. At the party, everything felt brighter, easier. Sienna was tired, drained, but then she saw Julian, tall, refined, with the kind of confidence that didn't need to be loud. He'd only joined the company 6 months ago, but already he was the kind of person people listened to. When he asked if she wanted to talk strategy in private over a drink, she laughed. "Only if we toast to surviving Q4," she joked. It started as business. But the second round came faster, and soon they were trading stories, not just campaign pitches, but life confessions. Julian shared about his divorce, the loneliness of always performing for others. Sienna, emboldened by the champagne and the late hour found herself echoing his sentiments. Sometimes I wonder if Liam even sees me anymore, she admitted. We used to feel like a team. Now, it's like we're roommates. The word surprised her more than him, but Julian didn't judge. He just nodded, offering a kind of understanding that felt dangerous. When he hugged her goodbye near 1 a.m., it was brief, but close enough for her lipstick to leave a faint trace on his coat. She didn't notice. Not until Liam did. When Sienna walked through the front door, she expected sleepy frustration. Maybe a teasing, cutting it close, huh? Instead, she found Liam sitting on the couch in the dark, his face half lit by the glow of the TV screen, and his eyes far colder than she'd ever seen them. He didn't yell. He didn't even stand. "You're drunk," he said. "Yeah," she snapped, not bothering to hide it. "It's New Year's Eve. I had a few drinks. What's the big deal?" He stood up slowly and pointed to her collar. "Whose lipstick is that?" The question struck like a slap. Her hand flew to her coat. Sure enough, there it was. She fumbled for an explanation, but Liam wasn't waiting. "You used to talk to me," he said, his voice low. "Now you save your honesty for someone else." She wanted to fight back. Wanted to scream that he was being paranoid, that Julian was just a coworker, that she'd done nothing wrong. But something in his eyes made her freeze. Hurt, not rage. Wounded disbelief. She said nothing, just turned and went to bed, hoping the new year would wipe it all clean. But the morning was worse. Liam barely looked at her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't accuse. He just pulled away. Over the next week, the silence became unbearable. At work, Julian tried to act normal, even texting her a casual, "Had a great talk last night. Hope you're okay." She never replied. Back home, every meal with Liam was quiet. Every evening felt like waiting for a conversation that never came. Until one night she found a note on the fridge. Just a single line, "I don't know if I can do this anymore." The fallout didn't stop at home. At the office, whispers began to spread, first soft, then loud enough to hear. Someone had seen her leave with Julian. Someone had noticed their laughter on the balcony. It didn't matter that nothing had happened. Perception was enough. Sienna tried to stay focused. She buried herself in presentations and late-night edits, but the weight was crushing. Her manager, Sarah, called her into a meeting. "This isn't about discipline," she said gently, "but I suggest laying low for a bit. People are talking." Julian didn't help. One afternoon, he joked during a meeting, "Maybe Sienna and I should handle this client together. We already make a great team." It was harmless on the surface, but the glance he gave her afterward, lingering knowing, ignited every rumor further. She confronted him, in private, voice shaking. "You're making it worse." Julian blinked, almost offended. "You're overreacting. I'm not the one bringing personal drama into the office." And just like that, the thin thread of camaraderie between them snapped. At home, things were no better. Liam moved into the guest room. He responded to her attempts at conversation with monosyllables or silence. When she finally said, "I'm not sleeping with him," he just nodded and said, "That's not the point." It wasn't about cheating, it was about trust. And Sienna was starting to realize how little of it remained. It all came crashing down one Thursday evening when Sienna found Liam packing a duffel bag. "I'm going to stay at my sister's for a while," he said quietly. She froze. Is this temporary?" He looked at her for a long time. "I don't know yet." He didn't yell, he didn't list offenses, he just said he needed space. That being near her felt like trying to breathe underwater. "I keep wondering," he said, "if you're still in this with me, or just staying because it's easy." That night she sat on their couch alone and replayed everything, the hug, the note, the silence. And the one thing she hadn't done through all of it, listen. Days turned into weeks. She didn't hear from Liam, she didn't text Julian. Instead, she signed herself up for counseling, cut back her hours, and started journaling every day. At first, it felt forced, but slowly she began to see the truth she had been drifting long before New Year's Eve. And instead of facing the discomfort in her marriage, she'd reached for the nearest distraction. When she ran into Liam weeks later picking up groceries, he looked thinner, tired. But there was something else in his expression, maybe curiosity, maybe cautious hope. She didn't ask him to come back. She just said, "I'm working on it. Not for you, for me." And for the first time, Liam didn't walk away. The weeks after running into Liam were heavy with unspoken possibility. He didn't block her number. He even replied to her occasional texts with short, polite messages. Nothing affectionate, nothing final. It was a strange limbo, quiet but open. Sienna took it as a sign that maybe, just maybe not, all was lost. In therapy, she began unpacking more than just the events of New Year's Eve. Her therapist, Dr. Patel, gently asked questions that pulled at deeper layers. Why did she feel so unseen at home? Why did affirmation from someone like Julian mean more than emotional safety from Liam? The answers weren't easy to face. They came in fragments, memories of growing up in a house where success equaled love, where vulnerability was weakness and ambition was the only language spoken. She began to realize her marriage hadn't cracked overnight. It had been eroding, slowly buried under praise at work and pleasantries at home. And when Liam stopped asking how she was feeling, she stopped offering the truth. Julian hadn't broken their marriage. He had simply been a mirror reflecting everything she'd been running from. So she wrote Liam a letter, not to win him back, not to plead, just a letter about how it all started to fall apart and how she finally saw her part in it. She left it at his sister's doorstep, tucked in a manila envelope, with his name scribbled in ink that smudged from her shaking hands. It was early spring when Liam called. His voice was even like he'd rehearsed what he wanted to say. "Can we talk? I read your letter." They met at a small coffee shop near the lake, the same place they'd gone on their third date. The air smelled of thawing earth and old memories. Liam sat across from her. His hands folded the wedding band still faintly outlined on his ring finger, though the band itself was gone. "I don't know where we go from here," he said, "but I don't want this to be about winning or losing. I just want to understand." And for the first time, they talked not around their problems, not about who hurt who more, but about the spaces in between, the missed signals, the slow burn of resentment. Sienna admitted she'd been emotionally selfish, craving validation, without recognizing Liam's own need to feel chosen. Liam confessed he'd withdrawn too soon, scared that expressing hurt would make him look weak. They didn't leave the cafe hand in hand. There were no dramatic kisses or cinematic reconciliation. But when Liam walked her to her car, he said, "I don't trust easily, not anymore. But I'm not done trying. Not yet." Sienna nodded, her throat tight. "Neither am I." They started seeing each other once a week. No pressure, no timelines. Just a standing dinner on Thursdays, sometimes takeout, sometimes a walk. The first few weeks were awkward. They danced around certain topics, laughed a little too loudly at jokes, filled silence with weather updates. But slowly something shifted. Sienna noticed the way Liam still prepared her tea, the way she liked just a touch of honey, no lemon. Liam noticed she no longer checked her phone mid-conversation. They didn't call it rebuilding. They didn't even call it us. They just showed up. The turning point came during a counseling session. They finally agreed to attend together. Dr. Patel asked them both to finish one sentence. "I'm still here because," Liam said, "because I believe the version of us we lost isn't gone forever." Sienna said, "Because I finally see how I lost myself, and I don't want to keep losing you too." There were tears, but they weren't bitter. They were honest, cleansing, the kind that come when two people realize they're no longer trying to win. They're trying to understand. 6 months after their first tentative dinner, they stood in their backyard, just the two of them, and read vows they wrote on plain paper. No ceremony, no audience. Just intention. Liam read first. "I promise to speak even when silence feels easier. To risk vulnerability even when it terrifies me." Sienna followed. "I promise to listen, not to fix, but to understand. And to remember that love is not about being perfect. It's about being present." They didn't exchange rings. They exchanged promises, then held each other for a long time beneath the string lights Liam had hung years ago and never taken down. That night, curled beside him on the couch, Sienna looked around the living room. Same furniture, same walls. But something had changed. Not just between them, but within her. She no longer needed someone like Julian to feel seen. She had learned to look inward, and more importantly, to reach outward with truth. If you've ever found yourself drifting in your own relationship, feeling unseen or aching for validation in the wrong places, take a breath. Ask yourself not what your partner did wrong, but what you've stopped showing. Honesty doesn't start with confrontation. It starts with reflection. And sometimes the most powerful vow isn't made at an altar. It's made on an ordinary night in a quiet room when two people choose each other again with open eyes and imperfect hearts. In long-term relationships, what pulls people apart often isn't a single dramatic moment. It's the slow accumulation of overlooked feelings, unsaid words, and emotional distance. Sienna and Liam's story is a powerful reminder that love isn't just about being together when things are easy. It's about having the courage to face the hard conversations, the subtle betrayals, and the growing silence. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from actions, it comes from disconnect. Love at its core is an intentional act. It means choosing to listen, to forgive, and to reconnect even when it's uncomfortable. Don't wait until the other person has shut down emotionally to learn how to open up yourself. If someone matters to you, fight for them, not with grand gestures, but with quiet, consistent presence. Because real love isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about learning how to repair together.